We are less than a month now away from the 2025 World Cup. It's really creeping up on us. It's really growing, slowly growing momentum. And we have the first squad named, the home nations squad named, the tournament favourites squad named. The Red Roses, England, have named their squad for the 2025 World Cup. How are we feeling about it? What's our reaction initially?
There's not a huge level of controversy around it like there was in the last World Cup, where Simon Middleton left out Mo Hunt quite crucially. And, there were a couple of headlines that surrounded that, Mo Hunt kind of being the big one that hogs the headlines, let's say. This time round, it's, for the majority, what you would expect.
Yes.
However, I think there's some bits that were 50-50s or some controversial bits that we will talk about slightly later on. I think a couple of the headlines include the fact that Emily Scout's going to her fifth World Cup.
Fifth World Cup, which is incredible.
Mental. There are very few players in the women's game who've achieved that. There's very few players in the men's game who've achieved that, probably even less, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Not all of us are like Mauro Bergamasco.
Well, Mauro Bergamasco, James Pritchard.
Yeah.
Who are the others? Lima, not Lima, Brian Lima.
Brian Lima,
Brian Lima.
Romeo Guntiniak.
Guntiniak.
Yeah.
And I think maybe one more.
Yeah. But anyway, not everyone can be Anna Richards, is the point I'm trying to make. So...
Is it 7? 6?
No, I think like
48?
1,000.
15?
1,000.
Million?
Anyway, Emily Scarrett's fifth World Cup.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, still looking at centres, Jade Sheckles has snuck in. I think she's somebody that 12 months ago a lot of people wouldn't have had down, and came in the Six Nations, played the Tatiana Hurd role whilst they didn't have Tatiana Hurd, and was very good at it.
It reminds me a little bit of Tatiana Hurd at the last World Cup, where she'd played a handful of times, been very good for England before that, but wasn't an established name. Came in the pool stage, played so well that they kind of had to change everything to accommodate her in that 12 shirt, or the 13 shirt, in the centre anyway. And I think Sheckles played so well in the Six Nations that you've kind of had to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And she's the one then when you look at that, you're like, oh, she's got in. She's managed to sneak her way into this team. Then you think about who's she in at the expense of, right? And largely, this squad is pretty settled, and yet there has always been the ability under John Mitchell for new names to come in and to establish themselves. So Sheckles, I think, is the headline. You've got Ilse Campion as well. Is only 21, has just the one cap under her belt, but has managed to come in and sneak her way into the squad.
She's a really exciting player, Lily Ives Campion. I think one of those players, really athletic, really good set piece time, properly reliable player for her age, and I think we'll see a lot of her in this World Cup.
Yeah.
I can see her sneaking above some big names.
And they've got a couple of warm-up games coming up. I think we'll see more of a few of these players, try and get them some experience playing in big games, playing in larger stadiums in the lead up to that, because obviously incredibly well established at the PWR level. There's plenty of those in and about. Abby Burton's the other one as well, right? Which is such a cool story. Obviously, England Sevens hero for a long time, one of their great players, had kind of given up on the idea of playing 15s, and then had a serious health scare. And there was at one point risk she might not walk again. There was certain she wouldn't run again. And has somehow come back and not just managed to win her first cap, has got 2 tries off the bench against Wales on debut, has then gone on and squeezed into a World Cup squad, which is an amazing story.
Yeah. She's, again, just a really brilliant player. And as you say, that story is incredible in itself. But as a ball carrier and also over the ball breakdown time, she's another huge weapon. The thing is, all of those players that we've mentioned have a point of difference. As less experienced players. You look at Sheckles, she's probably the biggest ball carrier in that back line. That's probably what she's in there for, in case they get to a quarter-final and they realise we've not got enough go forward in the back line. We need somebody to stick in.
You look at, the smallest game of their, in terms of, I guess, threat of them losing it, is Samoa in the pool stage. They are still a physically very large team. You want players, if you're putting out kind of a second-string team, ostensibly, you want players who are big enough to handle that.
Yeah.
You want to be able to rely on some power to still get you over the top, right? 100%. You can't just play wide. You can't just play to width all the time. So I think she's a smart call.
Yeah.
Then there's a couple of exclusions as well. The big name one I think is Connie Powell, who's been very good over the last couple of years, has been left out for May Campbell. Which there was a bit of battle going on there. May Campbell's been very good. It's been kind of building this profile slowly for Saracens and then for England.
Yeah, I'd argue that May Campbell's slightly quicker as well, so maybe that's something that John Mitchell and particularly Lou Meadows in attack is looking for, is somebody who can explode away at maul time, even though you'd probably argue that Powell's a slightly better thrower, but either way,
a set piece operator, I'd say.
Yeah. Either way, you're looking at 1%ers either way here. Yeah. So that was definitely a really tough call. Yeah. You'd imagine that there were tiny factors in at play.
It comes down to it, like, are there, off the field things? Is it something in how they train? Is it something how they are on the cat? Like, those kind of factors have probably come into play.
Yeah.
So you've got loads around there. The other kind of exclusions, I guess, they've only got 2 scrum halves. So this was something that came up a few years ago. Yeah. Obviously, when Mo Hunt was left out. This time it is Mo Hunt and Lucy Packer, who was accused over her 3 years ago.
Yeah, so they're looking at Claudia Maloney-McDonald as probably the third scrum half in there. She's a winger by trade, grew up playing as a scrum half, has played there for England before, but is a winger, right? You don't want her to be starting tests at 9. However, I'm sure she would do a job.
She can come off the bench.
She's brilliant.
If she has to fill in against Samoa.
Yeah, exactly.
She can do that. However, I think it's the same thing that Sam Middleton came against 4 years ago, right? 3 years ago. I keep saying 4 years, but whatever. Yeah. The World Cup that was supposed to be 4 years ago. He had a very particular way he wanted to play. Mo Hunt didn't fit that, so he didn't pick her, right? And then, as a lot of people say, when you had the injury to Infante right before the World Cup final, then Lucy Pack had to start the final, a lot of people at the time were saying things about how this proved he was wrong to not take Mo Hunt. Actually, I sort of thought it was the opposite. I thought it was proof that he was right because he needed someone who could play that game plan instead of having someone who'd be different when they came off the bench.
Yeah.
And clearly, Mitch has gone the same thing. He's gone, right, okay, I want scrum halves to run the system we know it inside out, right? And Ella Virvas is the player who misses out here, which is really tough on her.
I really feel for Virvas. For me, I think she's the big omission of the whole squad here, especially with them only opting for 2 out-and-out scrum halves. Although I get it because it's such a specialised position, there's only one of them on the pitch at a time.
I think they want them to have as many minutes as possible, right? Yeah. They want the team to feel cohesive, to be like, even if they do change everyone else around them, to have these 2 scrum halves with a heartbeat and keep things flowing.
So with that, as you mentioned, Mo Hunt was left out at the last World Cup. Not because she wasn't playing well, but rather because she didn't suit the game plan. And Simon Middleton came out and he said that. The whole coaching team at the time said that was what it was. Does she suit the way we want to play? And with this, I think you slightly flip it on its head because Mo Hunt, the last 2 seasons in the PWR, she's been top for assists. Yeah. She's been one of the top try scorers. She's been the co-captain of the team that's won it 3 years on the trot in Gloucester Hartpury. It's natural that you want her in the squad, right? Yeah. Because she is a world-class scrum half, and she has been for 10, 15 years now, that she's one of the great players of this era of English rugby, right? And then on the other side, I completely understand that Lucy Packer and Ella Virvas were probably competing for the same position. And that is probably going to be the starting 9 over Mo Hunt. I think so, because those 2, above Mo Hunt, they just provide speed. Yeah. Ella Virvas has an exceptional pass on her. And also her kicking game is very, very good. For fans of the men's game who don't watch much women's rugby, I would probably liken her to maybe somewhere between a Jack Van Portfleet and a Cam Roygaard.
Yeah, I see that.
I would say somewhere,
somewhere
sandwiched between those 2. And Lucy Packer is a proper all-rounder of a scrum half, but she also can play at extreme pace. Yeah. That she loves to tap and go. She loves to play extremely quickly, and she doesn't love to go herself a lot. I think she's kind of got that Gibson Park style thing of just chucking the ball.
Lucy Packer's an incredibly programmable 9 who you can probably give any game plan and she'll play it. You can tell her to adapt anything and she'll do it. She seems like an incredibly coachable player. Like, you can take her and go like, okay, we want you to play fast this week. We want you to kick more this week. We want you to play for England instead of Wales this week. Like, whatever it is, whether it's a game plan change or a betrayal of her nation, she can do any of those. I do think there's something interesting in that John Mitchell, obviously, as the head coach, coached under Eddie Jones, the assistant, who did this with Japan in 2015 and again with England in 2019. We'll, for Wally's sake, pretend it's the last 2 World Cups Eddie Jones coached at. Only took 2 scrum halves because he wanted that continuity between games. Yeah. And I think it's an interesting ploy that John Mitchell's followed that. I wonder if he learned that in 2019 under Eddie Jones when he was there as part of that. Yeah, so the 2 scrum halves is interesting. Also, only 5 props. So Maud Muir can obviously play both sides. So she's clearly going to be asked to do that. But 2 loose heads, 2 tight heads, and then Maud Muir to cover both.
They've also got Kelsey Clifford, who plays both sides, probably equally well. Yeah. That's probably a big factor. She's going to play a big role in this World Cup, probably largely off the bench, but she's an important one to have in there as well.
Interesting, though, that they're all primarily tight heads. Both of those props are primarily tight heads. Very attritional. Normally, teams don't do this because props' bodies take the most punishment during the game. So it is a bit of a gamble. you're relying on Muir incredibly heavily.
Yeah.
Like, she's going to play a lot of minutes.
But also they've
here.
got Sarah Byrne, and they can rotate those two tight heads around quite a lot. So, yeah, it's high risk, but also they have the personnel to back it up.
Yeah, it's a bit of a gamble. The other names I think probably excluded. Mia Venner was great in the Six Nations.
Yeah.
Hasn't managed to sneak her way
She's
in.
in such a competitive position in the back three.
I feel like her and Sheckles are probably going for the same position. Even though they're different positions, they're probably going for the same spot.
I get that. And also, on the flip side of that, Emma Singh's made her way in, and she has been exceptional in the PWR. She's been one of the best players in the PWR for 4 or 5 years now. Yeah. And again, brings a kicking option that Ellie Kildunn doesn't at the back. And there is the option to play one of those on the wing. They can both play throughout the back three. Kildunn would probably be the one to move to the wing out of the two of them. So if you want to get them both on the pitch at the same time, that is something they might want to consider when they get to the later stages against the Canadas and the Black Ferns.
It is really interesting to have two players of that quality who are so different in that position.
Yeah.
That you're kind of spoiled and you're kind of like, well, hold on, we were building a game around Kildunn at 15, but we've now got Emma Singh, who is extremely good. I was about to say just as good, but extremely, extremely good.
Yeah.
But so different. You want her doing completely different things. The other name exclusion is Sarah Beckett.
Yes.
Who's so good for Gloucester Hartpury during the season, has been so good for England in past, and then was told over the summer that she didn't have a contract to come back to, so withdrew from the squad because she was no longer essentially able to afford it, right, without a professional contract there.
Yeah.
Which, this is outrageous. She would, I'd imagine, be in this squad if not for that.
She's one of the form players in the world a year ago, you know?
And was brilliant in the run-in for Gloucester Hartpury, was fantastic in the final.
World-class ball carrier.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely
so
one
good,
of the...
So disruptive, so good at being annoying.
Most overpowered ball carriers in women's rugby.
As England are going to be so reliant on the maul, and she's going to be missing from that. And yet, because Bill Sweeney wants a few new suits, instead what would be her salary is probably going on Bill Sweeney's new car.
Yeah.
Right? This team continues to be massively underfunded for what it's bringing, what's about to bring in. This should be the showpiece tournament. They should have the best players in England available to be here. They shouldn't be having to withdraw for financial reasons because Bill Sweeney isn't pulling his finger out. He wants a Christmas bonus instead.
Yeah, I cannot stress this enough because Bill Sweeney is a slimy, greedy arsehole who is taking all that money for himself, paid himself $360,000 as his Christmas bonus last year instead of giving a contract to one of the best players in England, right, and instead saying, and he based his salary bonus on the success of the women's team, which wasn't initially in the terms of his contract, but then he chose to interpret it that way so he could take more money because, I will stress again, he's an old, slimy, greedy asshole and he wants that money for himself, and instead he decided, no, I'm going to only give out this many contracts. Let's say, what is it, like 35 full-time contracts, right? Instead of making that 37, 38, because that would mean that he personally gets three people's salaries worth less onto his Christmas bonus, not even his salary, his Christmas bonus. Yeah,
his Christmas bonus could have paid for at least 8 more players in that squad, right, to be full-time professionals. That's his Christmas bonus.
If he gave a shit about women's rugby, which he doesn't. He claims he does, so he can get more money personally. He wants to line his own pockets by pretending to care about women's rugby, and he does not care a jot.
I was in the same room as Bill Sweeney a few months ago, briefly, and you can genuinely smell the evil coming off him. Yeah. Like, you sort of glanced at him once, and you're like, that is one of the most unsavoury men I've ever seen in my life.
He's a horrible man.
Yes. We don't know him personally.
No.
He may be lovely to play cards with. You know? I'm sure, right.
I'm sure there's a very nice deck of cards.
Yes. Not a big fan. I'm not a big fan, personally.
No.
But I hope he enjoys those suits.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Right, okay. You know what? I retract all of my comments there, okay? What do we think is more important to the greater rugby landscape? Women's rugby and building out a good, positive landscape for women's rugby and growing that sport, or Bill Sweeney's pool?
Well, I think obviously him having a pool in Twickenham, an area notorious for its sunshine and rainbows at all times, and pool really wherever you ever.
Don't act like Bill Sweeney only has one house.
That's true. Okay, yeah. No, the thing is, though, he did have to have some work done on his second house in the Maldives.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's probably more important than women's rugby, isn't it?
I think so.
Okay, cool.
Look.
End of discussion on Bill Sweeney.
Yeah, look, Savile Row ain't cheap. There's one other note, right? the sheer experience of the squad.
Yes.
England are going in as heavy favourites, right? And they will have comfortably, we haven't seen the Black Ferns squad yet, we'll look at as many of these squads as possible, we may end up doing roundups and so on as they go on and they come thicker
May
and
group
faster.
some together.
Yeah. But the experience of the squad, the Black Ferns squad isn't out yet, but I doubt it will have as many players who've played in World Cups as England, right? Yeah. So want to thank Studio Italiano for pointing this out on Reddit. This is, beyond, you mentioned Scarrett's playing in a 5th World Cup, right? There are more players in this England squad who have been to 2 or more World Cups than there are players playing in their 1st World Cup, which will be the only time that happens in this tournament. There are 8 players playing in their 1st World Cup, right? Fine, standard. That's still quite a low number for the number, right? There are 6 who played in 2. There are 2 who played in 3. And then Emily Scarrett who's played in 4.
That's mental.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And yeah, so Emily Scarrett's first World Cup would have been 2010. So that's 15 years ago.
2010 World Cup.
And we're going back 8 years so most of these players have had 8+ year international careers. And that does a lot for you. And what we were saying earlier about like Mo Hunt being experienced or whatever, it does mean when you rotate out a player like that and it's a 50-50 call and you go, brilliant, let's start Lucy Packer, let's start like, I don't know, Rosie Gallagher or somebody who's like not been playing 8 years of international rugby. The squad isn't weakened by that because there are enough players in there that experienced and positive influence is infectious. And it spreads around this Red Roses squad.
This is up there with the 2015 All Blacks in terms of the deepest and most carefully built squads I've ever seen. So they're enormous, overwhelming favourites. If they don't win it, it will be an even bigger upset than 4 years ago. 3 years ago.
We will look into that Black Ferns squad because I think they're the second favourites. They're the favourites to dethrone them. Let's put them that. They're not dethroned because the Black Ferns have
Canada,
the squad themselves.
Arguably France and Ireland. Yeah. There's a few teams who are like banana skins for England.
Yeah.
But they're all like that. Like this should be the squad that wins the World Cup. All these players should be leaving in 2 months' time.
Honestly, it would be an all-time like bottler narrative if they didn't win this. And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens because there is every chance that they don't. Because of what happened in the last World Cup, I'm now reluctant to just say, they're going to win it, even though they've not lost a game since then in this whole World Cup cycle.
There's about 10 days gap between the end of the Lions tour and the start of the World Cup. That is crazy. Yeah. I intend to have at least an hour's nap in that time.
Yeah, same.
But then, like, we want to do so much in this World Cup. Like, we've had some plans fall through that, meant some of the plans we had can't take place, but that's fine. But we're going to try and cover as much of it as we can.
Yeah.
So, rugby.
Rugby!